For the latest in strategic affairs, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the bell icon for updates.
Hello and welcome to Capital Calculus on Strat News Global. This is the show that looks at policies and developments through the intersection of politics and economics to share a fresh perspective with you every week, especially in unpacking the strategic imperatives. I am your host, Anil Padmanabhan. On Monday, India celebrated the 75th anniversary of its independence. Undoubtedly a watershed moment, but there's a greater cause for celebration. Over the last 10 years, India has forged a data democracy based on homegrown solutions like Aadhar. This packs the promise of effecting fundamental societal development, transforming the lives of 500 million people. To unpack this promise, I spoke to Pramod Verma. Pramod was the chief architect at Aadhar, tech evangelist, and presently the CTO at Xstep. I began by asking him to share the founding vision of Aadhar.
Okay, so first of all, I think Aadhar, when the project started, for sure, Aadhar was seen as, we did, at least the builders, then the building team, the co-founding team, didn't imagine Aadhar as an identity card project at all. We imagined Aadhar as an identity platform with open APIs, application programming interfaces, that allow government and private to innovate solutions that allow digital onboarding of 1 billion people onto their own system, whether it's a banking system, whether it's PDS system, whether it's a scholarship system, pension systems, or any of the private, gig economy systems people are signing up. The ability to high trust, low cost onboarding was imagined using identity as a pillar.
Actually, Aadhar solved for two prerequisites for democratizing identity. One, it solved for trust, and two, it did so at low cost.
Sort of when you look back, in any formalized economy, any formalized system, the system needs to know who you are, need to trust what you claim, what you say. I am an engineer, but how does the system know that you're an engineer? I am, SME. I pay taxes, but how does the system know that you pay taxes? How do you know your bank balance, average bank balance is so and so? The ability to make what's called verifiable claims is an integral part of accessing products and services back and opportunities, accessing opportunities and products and services. This is one of the fundamental reasons why most products and services were limited to the top sub 10% of the adult population. Credit card 22 million, all the ed tech put together maybe 12, 13, 15 million. Health tech, if you look at, they're all playing in the first 20 million, 50 million, stretch it, maybe 80 million people. But we have 900 and odd million adults, right? So at the end of the day, it was a very clear realization that we must dramatically reduce the cost of onboarding, cost of processing, paperwork and everything else, and cost of trust.
But the power of Aadhar lies in its simplicity and the ability to scale it in a digital framework. For example, UPI is used by 250 million people. This is actually almost the size of the United States population.
We are now shifting the idea that you can now control your digital footprints in machine readable and digitally signed. That means trustworthy and algorithmically processable manner, not a Xerox copy that only humans can read. Because the moment humans can read, nobody can verify, the cost shoots up. And when the cost shoots up, sachetized products cannot come because they're not more viable. So this is fundamental shift. So that when 1 billion people can take advantage of their digital footprints to make verifiable claims and digitally access services and products and opportunities, then we are seeing low cost, high volume access to product, services, and transactions at scale, right? Otherwise, we will be continue to limit ourselves to privileged few people like us, who at the top of the 10% of the adult population will continue to access everything. And the rest of the people go to money lenders on the roadside, completely informal economy, right? So that I think that DEPA is not just a data, somehow own data and monetize. It's fundamentally changes the trust element in the system and fundamentally the ability to sachetize products and services by reducing cost of processing, cost of onboarding, and cost of trust. And that's amazing. That's nobody has done it in the world.
India seeded data democracy by giving Aadhar to 1.3 billion people. I asked Pramod about the benefits that accrued and the prospects for the future.
We have only done what's called horizontal layers, identity payments, credentialing data, e-sign, those kind of very domain agnostic infrastructure. But real value, even beyond this, will start coming when financial products like lending, savings are truly reaching 300, 400 million people and not the top 100, 150. We should really push it to at least half the country, half the adult population.
Clearly, the onboarding of the next 500 million people equipped with these new digital tools is going to be unprecedented.
Combinatorial network effect. For example, we are now saying ONDC offers commerce opportunity, OCAN offers lending network opportunities, UPI obviously is payment, but similarly insurance networks would come about. You can combine them. When you combine them, unimaginable non-linear combinatorial possibilities exist, and we don't know what they exist, but we believe the fundamental premise there. If we have good policy support, and if we lay combinable infrastructure pieces, the building blocks as we call it, if we lay them correctly, and if you enthuse and energize and catalyze the ecosystem to innovate on top of that, magic will happen. We just have to believe in that idea that if you lay the infrastructure correct, if you support the policy and catalyze the ecosystem, we will have inclusive development and opportunity that is sachetized, affordable, accessible to half a billion people. Beyond that, it does get tough, and they will depend on the government to do much more beyond that.
I was curious to learn as to how India's digital economy based on open digital ecosystems stacked up against the standards prevailing in the West and elsewhere.
So I think it's fundamentally India model is fundamentally different. I think we are still very open economy, right? We allow everyone to play in, but we are still socialistic in our mind and mentality that we know large population needs explicit design to include them, and it doesn't happen by mistake or by automatically. It doesn't happen if you assume some top company will take care of the poor. It is not going to happen. So this has to be designed carefully. It has to be inclusive. But the fundamental difference, I think, in those models, for example, US outsourced everything to big tech, and there's no public good, zero public goods, digital public goods, generated post internet. So internet, maybe GPS is the last one, and really nothing happened. And so the Valley and the big techs ran with so fast. The regulators, the government are just now looking at breaking them up, more anti-competitive view rather than an inclusive development view. So they don't approach the way we approach at all in the US. And in China, of course, it's completely a closed loop internal system managed completely by them. It's maybe working very well for them, but definitely not something which will work for a democracy like India, where one or two companies now fully under the control of government. Government is fully in control there, even if there are two companies. We've seen much of signals that way, right? Europe takes a legal view, constantly take a legal view. Now they're coming with messaging interoperability act, necessitating interoperability between iMessage, WhatsApp, and Signal, and everything else. Which they're using a legal approach. They're coming with the e-commerce act, putting out laws to control and curtail with the e-commerce giants. But they take a legal view. I think India has been taking a very interestingly more technology driven but techno legal view with just minimum legal cover or regulatory cover. We are taking more technology approach to create more universal and inclusive infrastructure. And the universalization comes from not one player.
An obvious thought is whether this digital economy holds any promise for the private sector.
But I think we believe two things. One, underlying unifying infrastructure is essential to avoid complete siloed efforts, which are very, very costly and non-scalable to a universal scale. It's not universally scalable for a billion people. Second, we believe so. One is infrastructure must exist to create unification. Second, we believe diversity of solutioning is necessity for India's diversity to cater because we are no in no sense we are similar in one that sense, other than some underlying constructs. Everything else we have diversity, economic diversity, education diversity, capability diversity, everything, right? Language diversity. Also, if you look at diversity, one company with one app with same app fits everybody's silly way of looking at it. Maybe some people like WhatsApp might argue that see, WhatsApp is being used by a billion people, same user interface, right? It does work, but according to me, it doesn't actually work. Even WhatsApp, I would have wished lot more voice messaging, Indic language messaging. If you look at it, for Indians to really thrive on messaging, we cannot have English, typewritten WhatsApp with alone. Although 1 billion people use it, I'm just saying that we could supercharge it even much more. So I think my belief is this twofold. One, underlying infrastructure is necessity to universalize it and unify it. Second, our diversity calls for coexistence of many entrepreneurs. So I think entrepreneurs except incumbents, everybody is generally excited about this opportunity. Incumbents do come around after the first round. That's what we normally see.
Nandan Nilekani once famously remarked that Indians are data rich but economically poor. So I asked Pramod whether the new digital economy will help in managing a convergence between these two extremes.
Traditional services and products require assets, physical assets, physical degrees, physical land, to be owned so that people who have assets get to access more products and services. Can data become an asset and data reduce the cost of trust and cost of processing so that much more sachetized products are available and hence democratizing access to products and services happen fundamentally? I think so. His belief has been if data is the underlying asset that in the digital world, what is my currency? Digital world, my currency is my data. Then there's a new way of imagining the possibilities around it, right? So I think again, it's still early to predict how it comes, but we strongly believe that processing, data empowerment dramatically reduces the friction to access services and products and the friction to provide it. From the service provider's viewpoint, my ability to low cost, high volume provisioning can be done now with data coming as digitally signed and machine readable and so on.
You heard Pramod, data is the new oil. India's version of data democracy is looking to onboard the next 500 million people. Their personal data is going to be the means of empowerment. The societal development and empowerment that is likely to follow is going to be unprecedented. In short, India's best is yet to come. It's a great note to sign off for this week. Thank you for watching. Do subscribe to Strat News Global and remember to hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any updates. Also, do share your insights, thoughts, comments, and any ideas. I am available on Twitter at Strat News Global, and I'll be back next week with another episode of Capital Calculus. Till then, stay safe.